Halloween to you all, and I hope that you were able to grab in the chat the resource guide there so that we have everything that we need at our fingertips. Um, let me know if you have any trouble, and we'll move right on. I'm excited to be here today. It's always a pleasure, and I'm love hearing everything that you go in our Together We Grow section. I did it a little bit differently this time. Last week we had so much stuff to get through that we really didn't get to spend a lot of time talking and debriefing about that what we want our writer to be and that writer's identity. So I went through your slides and I just picked out some of those. And I love what I saw. Look at what we want our writers, not only our writers to be, but our students to be. Look at that confidence, to have a voice, to believe in themselves. So I just wanted to pull this out and say kudos to you all for having such a beautiful vision for your students. And so in opinion writing, there are two sides to every coin, and we know that at this K-5 level, that's what we're building. We're building their opinion. So that's what we're going to work on today. We're going to talk about pros and cons. And seeing pros and cons is that balancing of an opinion to be able to look at something and see two points of views. And it really is necessary to to make a valid opinion. So we're going to work on that today. So the tool that's going to help us talk about our pros and cons are on one hand, on the other hand. Okay, so that's our sentence starter that we're going to be using to write some pros and cons sentences. So on one hand and on the other, that's a really easy way to compare, and it's a great way to show two opposites. It allows that contrasting viewpoints that we want our students to have, and it shows a really clear what both sides hold. It's a well-rounded understanding of the topic. So that's what we're going to use today. So in the chat, I want you to create some on the one hand and on the other hand sentences for situations that I'm going to share with you. So on one hand is my pro, that's my good thing, that's my support. On the other hand is our con. Are we ready? Here we go. Pros and cons. On one hand, on the other hand, classrooms should have a class pet. In the chat, would you create an on one hand and on the other hand for this situation? On one hand, on the other. So what's my on one hand pro for classrooms should have a class pet? What's my on the other hand con for why classmates should not? Oh, I love it. Thank you, Jennifer. On one hand, students, oh, wow, puts responsibility. On the other hand, students could be allergic. Oh, wow. Thank you all very much. Great. Here's what I come up with. I said, on one hand, it teaches responsibility and to care for animals, and it can reduce stress. On the other hand, some students might be allergic and pets require time and resources for care. Okay. All Kentucky students should wear uniforms. Pro, con, on one hand, on the other. Go. On one hand, students should wear uniforms. On the other hand, what is the pros and cons of all students wearing one hands? I'm sorry, students wearing uniforms. All students should wear uniforms on one hand, on the other. I love that. On one hand, they won't have to decide what to wear. On the other hand, uniforms can be expensive. You're right. So when I'm creating an argument whether it's for or against, I need to really look at both sides of the coin. Here's what I came up with. So on one hand, it reduces peer pressure about clothing and kind of promotes equality. I can't talk today. And it reduces pressure about, that it just promotes that equality. On the other hand, it limits self-expression, and some students maybe feel very uncomfortable wearing a uniform. Playing video games is good for elementary students. One hand or the other hand. What's on one hand, video games is good for elementary students on the other hand. Yes, on one hand, video games do teach problem solving. On the other hand, it is really bad for your eyes. You know, on one hand, on the other hand. Hmm. Yeah. On one hand, it allows students to be a little tech savvy. On the other hand, not only is it bad for your eyesight, it's bad for your posture playing a lot of video games. It does create that anxiety, and that's something to can think of. Here's what I said: hand-eye coordination and problem solving. But on the other hand, it can be addictive and reduces time for outdoor play, which I think our students need a little bit more of. So, this is a really simple activity that you can do with your students tomorrow. Just have them look at two sides of an argument because all arguments do have two sides. On one hand, on the other, I can't help but talk about it, and when and do my hands, one hand and the other. Um, it's a nice way to get students to see, hey, there's more than one way to think about a situation. So as you look here on my screen, I've got some on one hand, on the other situations you can ask your students. A lot of time, we said conversation is the door that opens writing for our students. And so these are great things to talk about. I can talk about my on one hand, on the other. Then I can say, okay, go find a piece of evidence to support your statement. It's a nice way to bring in that making a claim and finding evidence. And here are some examples. So I'd like to open up this space for just a few moments and give you time to put in the chat or to unmute. We've got a small group tonight, a little bit smaller than we usually have. So if you'd like to just share out with me, one hand or the other, any of these that you'd like to ask your students about. We'll take just a few moments. I love this activity to do, especially when to really form their opinion, what they think and why they think it. I like them to have that sentence starter on one hand, on the other hand, and I like for it to be really to be in their writing and speaking vocabulary. So I make my students use it a lot because it does give that clarification. So I like it. So we do a lot of talking about, oh yeah, oh, I love that you use this about having taxes in society. Yep. This is so easy to pop into social studies. It aligns with, the Boston Tea Party. There is an on one hand and on the other hand in that situation, the Stamp Act. So it's definitely something I can pull out and I can have my students look at those social studies situations that I put them in for two viewpoints. Nice way to do that. So that's something to think about. Now, of course, we have to write a little bit. So I want you to go ahead and on your resource guide right there, unless you have your writing journal from last time. If you do, that's great. Use it. That would be wonderful. Or if you have a sheet of paper, I like to write on paper. You probably stare at screens all day. Be great to write on paper. but I have an issue that I'd like for you to write about 2 minutes, just kind of your thoughts. And it's about the penny. We've talked about situations having two sides to a coin. Let's talk about a coin. So many countries have phased out their 1 cent piece, but not here in the United States. We still have a penny. We still produce pennies. And some people say that the US should stop making the penny and stop using the pennies we already have. Just do away with them. Others say the penny is a really useful thing and we should continue to produce them and use them as we do today. So what I want you to do is take 2 minutes to just write your thoughts about this issue. Write your thoughts. You don't have to really make a claim. Just put what you think. Write what you think. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes in your journal. If you have trouble accessing it, that's fine. You can use a sheet of paper. Minute left. Okay, that's our stamina writing there. That's our 2 minutes. Would you look at what you've read through it, and would you put your golden line in the chat? Remember that golden line or that golden phrase is that one thing that you wrote that you really think is most important, that you want someone else to read, someone else to see. So take a few moments and just place your golden line about the issue of the penny in the chat. Find that golden line. Okay, so we've got some golden lines in there. What you think is your favorite thing. It could be as simple as I like the penny. Yeah, definitely that debit card is taking a hit, taking the place of a lot of our currency that we use, our coin, our money. So now that we've got that 2 minute write, did any of you all try 2 minute write with your class last week? If you didn't, take a stab at it and see how that's a reference to Halloween. Take a stab at it and watch their stamina grow. Thank you all.
If it's okay, I unmuted. So I did a 2-minute write with my students, and I actually did it in math. I was in the writing session for the 3 through 5, and someone mentioned, I can't remember who it was, but someone mentioned that they did a 2-minute writing for math.
Mhm,
And I've been
mhm,
trying to teach my students when they do math that we still need evidence to explain. It's not just in
mhm,
reading. So I
mhm.
had them write for 2 minutes about math, and some of them really struggled with it. But I could see their brains going a lot deeper than
Mhm,
they usually do. So it's something that I'm going to incorporate in all of my subjects every week, once a week.
mhm. Ashley, that's awesome. I did it in math as well. I loved it. Send me some of your students' work. I would love to
Okay.
showcase that. That would be awesome. Thank you. Yay.
Thank you.
And you will see them grow and write more. As they start that first one, you're like, oh no, wow, they didn't get anything down. That's okay. They might have got a sentence down. They might have got a couple words down. As you do it, they will grow as writers. It's a wonderful stamina building thing. And it's just that just right a time. Just just right amount of time. So now I love that Ashley just jumped us right into the deep end of what we're going to talk about when she said the word evidence. I tell my students they have to have reason and evidence for their work. You know, I don't know about you, but my students were always they're pretty good about picking out that evidence. Third grade we kind of really hone in on picking out that evidence, but when we move on up to our fourth and fifth grade, they're good at picking out evidence, but they have no connection to it. Why they picked it out, that explain portion of the short answer that's required by our state. Um, so I have a really nice strategy that I love to use to help my students look at a piece of evidence and tell me about that. What does it say? What does it say to them? That's where they create their commentary. And commentary is their thoughts. When we think about that piece of evidence, yeah, that'll get us, you know, couple of levels on the Bloom's taxonomy, but when I ask them to put their thoughts to that evidence to explain, that's where we really see that thinking happening. And this is called They Say, I Say. It's really simple. It is exactly what it is. They say is what the text says. I say is my thoughts on the evidence. What does it mean? How can I explain it? How can I relate to it? How can I connect? So they say, I say is a the big focus of today. So we're going to dive into it and we're going to practice. So if this is an example, so this is from Scholastic Storyworks text. Some of you all may use this. This is what the article said. This is what they said. So this is my piece of evidence that I pulled out. But the real job of flowers scents isn't to impress us humans. A flower's odor and bright color is to attract certain insects and bugs. So that's what the text told me. Okay, here's what I say about that. I say in our part of Kentucky, we have many brightly colored flowers with wonderful odors that attract insects and bugs, and they help our gardens grow. And many people I know get a lot of their food from their own garden. So now I have made that piece of text important to me. I've showed you what I think, not just plucked it out, but showed you what I think, put my thinking to it. So we're going to practice that. They say, I say. And we're going to do it around the topic, the issue that you just wrote about, the penny. Should we keep it at the penny? Should we not keep the penny? That is the question. So on your resource guide, if you will go to where it says penny slide deck, should they retire the penny? Now, I am fingers crossed hoping it asks you to make a copy of that because I want each one of us. I think there are three, maybe four pieces of evidence that they say. I want you to write commentary to that evidence. Here is your evidence. What do you say about that evidence? We'll give you just a few moments to see if everyone can access it. And when you access that slide deck, It should look similar to what I have on their screen, the they say, and then the I say. They say is that evidence from the text. So as a teacher role, I have posed an issue, and instead of my students going and finding the evidence themselves, I'm going to give them the evidence I want them to respond to explain, to support. Okay, has everybody got their slide deck going? I'm not seeing anyone putting they have any trouble in the chat. So for 4 minutes, I'm going to let you write commentary for each piece of evidence. Here's what they say about it. I want to know what you say based on the evidence. Your I say is based on the evidence. Are we ready? I'm going to hit our 4 minutes since I haven't seen anything in the chat. Let me know if you have any trouble. Go.
School, this would have been an approach like that would have been best for me. But back to the K-1, you know, we're told to model, model, model. What better way to model writing than with they say, I say,
Mm-hmm.
to model that for your students?
It is awesome. And then here is what it says. What do you say back? Because we want them to start forming their opinions. You know, an essay in kindergarten is going to be very different. Sometimes I let their essay be drawings. You know, sometimes first grade, I definitely hit on those sentence starters that I really want them to push into on how I want them to develop it. But when I'm doing that short answer, and this is what they say. They want the essay. The essay is what moves my students up that rubric. That essay is what moves an apprentice to a proficient if we're talking test scores. But this is a beautiful way to get kids thinking. I agree with you. I think it is very much less intimidating, but this is only one layer of it. Let's do some more.
Kim, and one thing really quick, just to add on what Rhonda and Dean said, what a great way. I know, like, you're just thinking about kids in the past, like they don't know how to choose their evidence either. This is modeling such a great way for them to choose what piece of evidence to use in those like constructor response questions or their short answer. So when you talk about like, why do you think we chose this piece of evidence from this text or whatever, you can even talk about that. So I think this is a great way for you to even talk about that. Like, why do you think I chose this little, this little piece of evidence? This is perfect. Like, I wish I'd had.
And kindergarten and first grade are speaking that evidence language too. You know?
Well, I teach, I've snuck in this one today because I was kind of curious. I teach high school special education at the resource level. So pulling out evidence, this is huge. 9 through 12. So this is in our language, a counterclaim. Like in our on-demand 11th grade, you are looking for that counterclaim. And so if you're giving them this and then they're coming in and saying that, you are introducing them to the idea of producing a counterclaim. And you could even, again, give them that thesis, although some say, I say. And so and if you even could make them list at some point, work towards that, list your reasons, and there's your body paragraphs, like you're walking them right in to, this is
what they need to do. Yeah.
And really, truthfully, they don't even notice it. This is kind of like a game. They're not even going to know, which is anytime you can teach a kid something they don't know they're learning, that's like 2 thumbs up.
And when you're saying, they say I say is my reasoning. And sometimes when we say, well, you gotta put your reasoning in there, you gotta put your explanation. If we can say, what do you say about that? And if we can get them to do that I say part, that is their reasoning. It's very easy. So this is one way to use it, but we're not going to stop there. There's another way. So I want you to go ahead and access the Google Doc that says they say, I say, and it should look like this. So my template is a little different as I'm moving on to another level. If you have any trouble, just let me know. This one is a little more, it's a little more open. I don't have the evidence in there because I'm going to, take some training wheels off. So I'm going to let them pick out their they say, I say. So we're going to watch a video about coins. And I want you to pick out a piece of evidence from the video to be the they say. And then I want you to put your I say. What is your commentary? What are your thoughts about that piece of evidence? How does that piece of evidence link to, should we get rid of the coin? Should we not? Okay. So we're taking another approach to they say, I say, and we're going to watch a video. Okay. Now remember, our goal is to find a they say. What's CNBC going to say about the coins? And what do I say about their evidence? Ready? Here we go.
Ever wonder whether there's a point to having small change? Well, you're not alone. Many governments around the world have asked that very question. Should pennies, the smallest value coins in circulation, be scrapped? The value of small change is being debated around the globe. Australia phased out 1 and 2 cent coins in the 1990s, while Canada stopped producing copper coins in 2012. In the Eurozone, where 1 and 2 cent coins are still produced, countries like Ireland are voluntarily rounding prices to the nearest 5 cents to avoid using smaller change. And even those coins seem quite valuable when compared to currency like Uzbekistan's tiyin. You would need 8,000 of them to buy just 1 American penny. Here in the UK, you can still find plenty of pennies in circulation. To understand why, let's look back at its long history. The word penny originally meant any sort of coin or money, not just a small denomination. The first English pennies were adopted by Anglo-Saxon kingdoms in the 8th century and were made entirely of silver. That original English penny was worth a lot more than today's penny. That comes down to 2 main factors: debasement and inflation. Debasement is when a monarch or government lowers the value of currency by changing the makeup of a physical coin. Early coins were made of valuable metals like gold and silver, but as rulers needed more money to pay for things like expensive wars, they began to add cheaper metals into the mix. That made the coins worth less, meaning people needed more of them to buy things. The average price of goods and services has also gone up over time. This is known as inflation. In 2016, the Royal Mint revealed there are 11.3 billion pennies in circulation, but 60% of 1 and 2p coins are only used once. Lost to piggy banks, sofas, sock drawers, even the garbage bin. 8% of pennies are thrown away. This means the Royal Mint has to produce even more pennies to replace the ones that have gone out of circulation, about 550 million a year. However, by law, vendors don't have to accept 1 penny coins as a form of payment for anything over 20p, so this cafe doesn't have to accept these pennies if I want to buy a coffee. Which means there isn't much out there that you can buy with 1 penny coins, apart from sweets, of course. The Royal Mint won't reveal how much it costs to make a penny, nor how much the UK would save by stopping production. But it did say that it costs less than 1p to make 1p. That's more than the Americans can say about their penny. While the cost has decreased over the years, it still cost 1.8 cents to produce 1 US penny in 2017. The cost of a penny largely comes down to the metals in it, and those prices can fluctuate. While the US penny was mostly made of copper for more than 150 years, rising copper prices forced the US Mint to dramatically reduce the amount of copper used in the coin. Now a penny is primarily made up of zinc, and is only 2.5% copper, though ironically now zinc prices are rising too. The British penny is made of steel coated in copper. Steel prices have also increased over the years, which helps explain why Canada ceased minting its copper-coated steel penny back in 2012. For all this effort, the demand for small change is in decline. One study found that Americans throw away $62 million in coins each year. while in Britain 68% of people don't bother to carry or spend copper coins anymore. One reason for this is the rise in cashless payments. The number of non-cash transactions are projected to hit more than 875 billion by 2021. But don't sign cash's death certificate yet. It's still the most frequent form of payment in the United States, representing 30% of consumer transactions. In the UK, cash accounts for 34% of all payments, second only to debit cards. And globally, 1.7 billion people don't have access to a bank or similar financial institution.
So cash is widely used, but small change isn't. If that's the case, why do we keep it? Is the penny worth more to the economy than we think? Some experts believe that prices ending in 99 are a time-honoured sales technique that help businesses.
For example, researchers found that sales of a pizza increased by 15% after its price was lowered from €8 to $7.99.
But pennies can also have a negative effect on businesses and the economy.
The US National Association of Convenience Stores calculated that handling pennies adds 2 to 2.5 seconds to each transaction. That could cost the economy $10 billion in wasted time every year.
And some have argued that charities and their beneficiaries may also lose out.
The penny's value, or lack thereof, makes small change useful to charities because people are more open to parting ways with it. Loose change donations to charities in the UK alone are worth $396 million a year.
As countries like the UK and US continue to mint small change, it may be only a matter of time before the penny drops and they follow other major nations in retiring copper coins forever. Hi guys, thanks for watching our video. We hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to know your thoughts on small change and pennies in particular. Do you still use them? Comment below the video to let us know. And remember, ever wonder whether there's a point to having small change?
Okay, now let's go to our They Say, I Say Google Doc. Wide open template, They Say, I Say, pick out one piece of evidence and do that's you heard in the video. And respond to it. What do you say about it? Now, as we do this, I would love for a brave soul to unmute or put in the chat. There they say, I say. I would love for you just to unmute. What did the article say? What did you say?
Well, they said we're throwing away, what, 65% of change?
Mm-hmm.
And my I say is, I told you so. We just shouldn't make it. Like, I feel like, if the national debt, like it costs us more to make them, we just have to keep making them. So if we're throwing them away, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Like,
Anyone else have another They Say, I Say?
I think the one thing that popped out to me was the cost of how much, we went away from making it from copper and zinc and how the prices are going up. So I say in a few years that they're probably pennies might be obsolete by then because of the rising cost.
Okay, so now let's switch gears. How did that feel to have the They Say, I Say open? Did it make you look and think about looking for evidence differently? How did it help your commentary? Did your evidence support could you support your evidence with your explanation? How did it feel a little different?
I was definitely focused on listening for, okay, what's my They Say going to be the whole time? Do I want to know about this? Do I want to say something about this? Do I have something to say about that?
Mm-hmm. So we have, if we think about our text, we started out with quotes. Now we've moved into a video, but we're not done yet. We're going to use They Say, I Say in one more way. I like the thought bubbles. I like this template. Again, it's taking off the training wheels, and then we're going to
Ever wonder
here.
whether there's a
Okay, move on. Okay. But to have to convince others, have you all formed an opinion here? You might have an opinion in your mind. I'm going to show you some sentences that support your opinion. Yes, we should get rid of it. No, we should not. And I want you just to place them. Which one of these sentences would support your opinion that you have right now? And your opinion may have changed. So go ahead and put the number of the sentence that would support your opinion that you have about retiring the penny. Yes? No. Okay. I don't see anybody putting one. I like to do these because it helps my students to, number one, decide what is my opinion. And number two, what does evidence look like to support it? And then it lets my students see US should stop using pennies. Well, that's not evidence. That's an opinion. So just wanted you to kind of think about, again, when we think about research and evidence and what's good evidence and what's good things to respond to, I could also take each one of these and put them in my they say column and have my students respond to them. We're going to do one more, they say, I say, because I want you to use it with the text. So we've used it with quotes that I've given you. We've watched a video. We've kind of did a self-check of ourselves with our sentences to see if is there any evidence out there to support my opinion? And now let's look at it with the text. So if you will, on your resource sheet, if you will access Life of a Coin, and if it takes you a few moments to get there, if it gives you the spinning wheel, it didn't mean, but I think it'll take you there. And then I want you to pick out a piece of evidence and put a they say, I say statement into the chat. Access your article, and it is from the US Mint. Take a few moments, read through it, and think about, what can I do a they say, I say about? And you know what? I can't put a they say in there if I don't have anything to say about it. That's my students would be get good at picking out evidence, and I would be like, well, why did you choose that piece of evidence? Oh, I don't know. Well, they're leaving out the most important part. They might have a decent piece of evidence, but if they have nothing to say about it, then that's not going to take me to their next level, because I want to know their thoughts. I want to know why you chose this piece of evidence. And if you can't talk to me about your evidence, go choose another one. What does that piece of evidence connect to our issue? If you have the issue of, yes, we should retire the penny, or no, we should not, what piece of evidence are you going to get that's going to work in your favor? Because we naturally want people to agree with us. We want people to have the same opinion as we do. And if we want to do that, we have to have ways to persuade them. So when you find a they say, I say statement, go ahead and pop it in the chat. Hope everyone's been able to access the article okay. Go ahead and put a they say, I say in the chat. What does the article say? What do you say? I say this supports the issue because it shows that. Or I say this supports the issue because it shows that we are wasting our resources by keeping the penny, because 60% of it's thrown away. Put a they say, I say in the chat. And no, you may not get through the entire article, and that's okay. You can just stop and put your they say, I say in the chat. Oh gosh, trouble accessing. I'm sorry. We have one, if you're having trouble accessing, if you'll use your chat box to scroll up and find, we had a they say comment, I say in the chat. Ah, I'm sorry.
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
What if they have questions? Like in mine, it said, that it costed more to make the penny. What if, can they ask questions in there? They say, like,
Now, they say is what do they say? It is a piece of evidence.
I mean, when I say, can we make it cheaper? Can we do this? Can we do that?
No, that's a commentary. I say is what you say about this piece of evidence. Now,
Okay.
you could say, I wonder if we could make it cheaper because. But the I say is the commentary part. The I say is their thinking. So
Okay.
I would really want to hone in on what are your thoughts? Because when we are answering questions, we want them to explain the evidence. The I say is the explanation. So that's why a question wouldn't necessarily work there. But I love the questions. That's where I might say, okay, might need to do a notice and wonder, and we will do a notice and wonder next time. But I love this strategy, and I wanted to put we're getting to the point in the year where, okay, now we've got through our first 9 weeks. I'm going to have to bump up a little bit of my writing of they're answering the questions. So I thought this would be a nice one to put in at this time. So that's why. Now, I want you to make a claim. What is your opinion? I say that they should retire or they should not retire. Has everybody got their claim? I love these they says. Okay. I want you to think about what we have. We started with an issue. We looked at some quotes and we got our thoughts about those quotes. We watched a video. We pulled out a piece of evidence and we got our thoughts about the evidence we pulled out. And that was pretty open. We we read a piece of text and we pulled out a they say and we got our thoughts about it. Now I want you to go back to your 2-minute write that we did. And I want you for 2 minutes to add to it, add your claim. If you hadn't, you might have had already added your claim, your opinion. And I want you to support it with some information that we've had. And do you know what? That information could be those I says that you had, those they says and I say. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes just to write one more time. did that feel? Were were you able to write more this second time? Did your ideas change from the first time? I like to sandwich I like to sandwich my thoughts between a 2-minute write. So I started out with my first initial thinking, then we moved and did 3 they say, I says, and now I go back to my 2-minute write and say, "Okay, now, same topic, write 2 minutes again. What can you add to it?" So I wanna hear your comments. What do you think? Comments, questions, concerns?
The building, the way you built, like it's super like it again. It was kind of a little more almost like the would you rather situation game you play or four corners or whatever.
Mhm.
At first. So again, if you can convince them they're playing a game instead of really learning something, that's always great, even if they're seniors. And maybe if you're, and today, if you're a teacher, if you can convince her she's playing a game instead of working. So yeah, I think that the way it built, and it definitely, even for me, was more difficult. I could see the graduated difficulty in how you did that. And I like in my classroom, there would be some students that that last piece where I was coming up with my own claim, I'm not real sure that would be really hard for them. So I think absolutely, I think, you could have kids working on every level in my room. So yeah, this was a
Well,
really good one.
that they say, I say, when they have done, when we're before we start to like form that claim, and my kindergartners make claims. My first graders, but before we did that, they've done so many of those they say, I says that now they have their opinion. You know, um, they get to interact with the text. And the text being quotes, the text being videos, the text being the written word, of course, but anything that conveys a meaning is a text. And so I really want to make sure that I incorporate that in, that I give them a wide variety of uh, resources. I don't want to say resources, but I want them to see it a lot of different ways. They say, I say will work with anything. If you have a high quality resource, they say I would laminate the cards and just cut them apart. I like those little bubble cards, and I would let them use dry erase markers to do the they say I say. I wanted it to be something that they did all the time. Sometimes, like I said, I wouldn't even have them write their I say. It would be we would talk about it. They would have to talk to a partner about it. So it's so versatile, but it gets them thinking in the right direction. So, and I love it with first graders. It is so much fun because this is what it says. What do you say? You have an opinion. You have a voice. Let's find a way to get that out of there. They have a voice. So it is 4:59. I have loved this hour with you all. It's so super great. So this week, try on one hand, on the other with your kids and partner them up. Just give them situations. On one hand, on the other. Let them see there are two sides to every coin. There's 2 point of views. Try, they say, I say. And you can give them the information. It can be with a video, it can be with a picture is a they say, I say. A picture can be interpreted. Try 2-minute write. And I'm excited about that math 2-minute write because I love it. So thank you all so much, and I look forward to being with you again soon.
Thank you so very much, Kim. This was awesome. I can't wait. I was thinking about on one hand and the other, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, like, one of the issues, and I know everybody's thinking this right now, this time of year, like tattling, on one hand and the other. letting them write about that. Yeah, Dean's laughing, but I mean, that's so true. You know, if they could do a one hand and the other, like, you know, I don't know, you all come up with that, and I can't wait to see how that goes. But
I love it.
that was always my battle with, you know, the littles is, you know, I've tried everything, the tattling turtle and all of that, but if you could come up with like a really good way on one hand and the other, you know, because all they want to do is tell you whatever
Mhm.
happened. Like, she looked at me, or, and I mean, it even happens at the older, you know, my 16-year-old still comes in from school telling me the tattle stories. So I may try that with her. I don't know. But you know, that I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, oh, this would be great if they could even write about it. And then the tattling may decrease, or they may love it and tell you both sides. But thinking about it through a different perspective or that different lens too, I love it.
And
They say, I say, I love that.
we're creating those great little human beings when we get them to see there's two perspectives.
Madison,
You know, your
Madison's like,
way's
don't
not
talk to me.
always.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know, Madison, if it works, you know, call me tomorrow and tell me, you know, you may have you may have a whole list of on one hand and the others. I don't know. Your evaluation, I have dropped it in, but let me drop that in again. These are awesome. I always love, and like, I know Kim started with this, but we're all writing teachers. If we can come up and make our students more confident in writing and their ability to write, you know, these simple little things
Mhm.
that we're doing every day. And I think that's the, you know, we talk about reading fluency all the time, but it's that writing fluency as well. Just practicing, practicing, practicing. And that's the key. So I love it. I love it. I
They
love
say I say is awesome for those word problems too.
it. Mm,
They
yeah.
say, what do you say? And that I say is, well, I see how I'm going to solve that problem. So it
I
works
love
in
it.
every content area.
Right, absolutely. And I know that several times, you know, we're looking through evaluations, and several times on evaluations, they're like, but how does this fit with maybe my social studies standards? Absolutely. This fits with all of your standards.
Mhm.
So think about that. Think about how you're going to use this in social studies. Think about how you're going to use this in your reading. If you're, you know, if you're reading your ELA, this can work with anything. So I love that Ashley pulled in that she's using this in math. You know, I love it. I love it.
Mhm.
Madison's going to use this as part of her PBIS. I love it. This is great.
Me
So
too.
you all are awesome. Have a wonderful week. I know that tomorrow, I don't know when trick or treating is in your area, but you may have some wild little ghosts and goblins in your classroom over the next few days. They probably came in all jacked up on candy over the weekend too. So know that we are, yeah, I'm praying right now.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So you all have a blessed week, a wonderful week. And you know, Godspeed. That's all I can say. But have a great week. This has been great. So thank you, Kim. I'll stick around if you all have any questions. I know on Friday and Saturday, I may see some of you all for Kagan strategies. We are so excited. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful remainder of the week.
So